You ever been in a room and just wondered about the quiet one? You know, the person who's taking it all in? Our first instinct is to label them, right? Shy, maybe upset. But what if something much, much deeper is going on? Well, in this explainer, we're going to dive into the complex psychology of silence. And I'm telling you, what you think you know, it might be completely wrong.
I mean, think about it. At work, at a party, you see someone listening way more than they're talking, and our brains just jump to conclusions. It's a mental shortcut. Oh, they're shy. Or they must be bored. Maybe even insecure. But are those labels really accurate? Or are they just hiding a much more interesting reality?
Okay, so this is where we get it twisted. We see shy, but what psychology is actually pointing to is deep processing. We assume someone's uninterested, when in reality they're engaged in careful observation. And we label it insecure, but what if? What if it's actually a powerful form of self-regulation? Let's break down what's really happening behind that silence. So here's the big shift in thinking we need to make. Being quiet isn't some kind of flaw that needs to be fixed. It's more like a behavioral signature, you know? It's the result of how someone's mind is wired to process information, to handle their emotions, and to learn from the world around them. It's time to just throw out those simple labels and look at the real psychology at play.
So let's start by popping the hood. What's going on inside? What are the internal drivers, the cognitive gears, and the energy systems that actually create a quieter personality in the first place?
The whole journey really starts with the concept we've all heard of, introversion. It was first detailed by the psychologist Carl Jung, and his core idea was pretty simple. It's all about energy. Introverts don't get their energy from a buzzing party. They draw it from their own internal world of thoughts and ideas. They're processing things inside before they ever bring them out.
And that process is absolutely key. In introverts, energy is pointed inward, which means they are carefully, thoughtfully, organizing what they want to say before they say it. It's not that they have nothing to add, it's that they prefer precision. They're often waiting for the right moment to have a more meaningful conversation, not just to fill the air with noise.
But you know, this goes beyond just introversion. Some people are just wired for what psychologists call deep cognitive processing. For them, the brain prioritizes accuracy and depth over just being fast. You could almost think of them as mental architects. They're busy analyzing every angle, considering the implications, and mentally rehearsing what they're going to say before a single word comes out. So that pause you might notice before they speak, that's not hesitation. It's not a bug, it's a feature. That silence is literally the sound of their mind at work, connecting dots, weighing options, and building a truly thoughtful response. And get this, beyond just thinking styles, silence can be a really deliberate emotional strategy. For some people, staying quiet is a way to manage their own emotional state. It's a conscious three-step play. First, it helps them reduce impulsive reactions. Second, it lets them sidestep unnecessary arguments. And third, it helps them maintain their own inner balance. This isn't avoidance, folks. It's a sign of incredible emotional control. So we've seen the internal wiring. But of course, our brains don't operate in a vacuum, right? So now let's look at how the outside world, our social environment, and all our past experiences can actually shape someone into becoming a quieter person. This brings us to a really famous idea from Albert Bandura called social learning theory. The core concept is that we learn a huge amount just by watching other people. So a quiet person in a group might actually be the one who's learning the most. They're observing the dynamics, picking up on the nonverbal cues, and figuring out the unspoken rules of the whole interaction. Think about it like this. That person who's kind of leaning back and just listening, they are not checked out. They are actively learning. They're absorbing all the subtle information that everyone else who's too busy talking is completely missing. And then, of course, there's personal history. Just imagine if your past experiences have taught you that every time you speak up, you get misunderstood or ignored or dismissed. It's only logical that you would adapt by listening more and talking less, right? What might have started as kind of a protective shield can become a really comfortable, stable communication style. That's not a weakness, that's a smart adjustment to your world. Okay, so we've explored the why behind being quiet, but now for what I think is the most important part, the hidden strengths. It is time to stop seeing quietness as some kind of deficit and start seeing it for what it so often is, a superpower. And listen, these are not just minor perks, these are formidable skills. It all starts with being a fantastic listener, which isn't passive at all. It's active data collection. And that power of observation leads directly to noticing critical details that other people just steamroll right over. Because they aren't rushing to speak,
they tend to develop a heightened self-awareness, which translates into more thoughtful, less impulsive decisions. So when they finally do speak, their contribution is often incredibly well considered and really impactful.
So if you remember just one thing from this entire explainer, please make it this. Silence is not emptiness. It is a space that is filled with thought and observation and reflection. It's proof that the mind is actively and powerfully at work.
And that leaves us with one final question to think about. In a world that so often prizes the loudest voice in the room, what incredible ideas, what amazing insights and perspectives might we finally hear if we all just took a moment to stop talking and truly started listening to the quiet?